Hello and welcome to another Retro Crazy. This is a continuation from where we left off in part 2, just after we'd seen we'd got graphical corruption and I'd lifted off the CPU socket. So without further ado, we are going to start exactly where we left off. Because I'm not going to be using this socket, so once I've cleaned it up and put everything in, it's really going to be more for the fact that it's original. What I'm going to be doing is taking the accelerator and installing it onto one of these, which is for the coprocessor socket, and that will allow me to run the, if I get it the right way around, accelerator like that in the socket, which personally I prefer. I think it'll give a bit more cooling rather than being tucked underneath the power supply and drive caddy chassis. But I'm not just going to solder that on. What happens if I want to do testing? I'm actually going to use one of these, solder that on, and then I can plug it in and out should I need to. And I think that's a more sensible option. So let's get all this cleaned up so that when the socket I want to use arrives, I can drop it straight in. So with this fitted, let's power up, make sure everything is as it was. So that's everything as it was. So before we go any further, I need to do something with that power supply. So with the power supply out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift out this fan initially, because it is so loud and it's drowning out what I'm saying, as you may have been able to tell from the last video. I do apologise as well. I forgot I had workmen in for the next 7 to 10 days. So yeah, we're getting work done on the house. So apologies for any noises in the background. So normally I try to keep everything original, however this is just too noisy. So I'm going to be replacing it with one of these. So the first thing you'll notice is it's much wider. That, however, shouldn't be an issue, because there is fairly much loads of room except for here. So all I need to do is actually take off one corner and it'll drop in. Now I could force it, it's very close, but it's not worth putting stress on the circuit board or any of the components just to fit a fan. The other thing you'll note is the power. There's a 3-pin plug, whereas the Amiga uses a 2. I'm not obviously going to use all 3. I just need to convert this over to this style of plug. Now with fans, you'll actually note there is a direction set of arrows. If you look, they're only on one side, but it shows you an arrow going that way and that way. So it shows you that it's rotating this way and blowing air that way. Now this fan, if we check, has exit, so it was exiting out of the case the way it was designed. So I'll fit this with the small arrow showing direction of flow, so the label goes inside. So with that fitted, let's see how much quieter this is. Oh, yeah, that's so much better. Kicking out a good amount of air. Yeah, I can live with that. Hopefully you can too. So let's move on to some diagnostics. First thing I'm going to try is to run a GoTek in place of the floppies and find out, do we actually have a fault with the floppies, and that way I can actually run some of the diagnostic software from here. So on the GoTek we've got 5 volts listed here. Let's check and see which one of these is 5 volts. So confirming 5 volts is on yellow, let's connect this up. So with that in place, let's see if it powers up. We're getting a display, excellent. So let me power down and we'll plug in the USB that contains all the different images that I've got. So we want Amiga test kit. Let's see if it will boot. Ejected, back in. And it's running, so that tells us, unfortunately, that both floppies have failed. While we've got this here, let's check the memory. He said hopefully. There we go. And I'll just go through these one at a time. Okay, so it's passed all tests. I'm confused, totally confused. You can obviously see the distortion on screen. So let's try something else. Okay, this makes no sense. It's passing all tests, it's running games. What? This is just weird. I think after this we'll try a diagnostic ROM. So on thinking about where I go from there, I thought easiest way, dig out the Amiga Diag BIOS that I have, plug that in and let's see what happens. But you'll note the 2000 isn't on the workbench, and that's because I've managed to put the ROM chip somewhere safe. So what can I do? Well, I have a number of the programmable EEPROMs to do the replacement, but the TL886 doesn't actually support programming them unless you have an adapter. However, with this adapter, some assembly is required. So let's crack on and get that done just now. And there we are, all done. So this should now allow me to program the relevant EEPROMs. Fingers crossed anyway. We can see the programmer, we can see the screen, we can see a random number of things happening. Okay, so the clone 866 programmers don't support the 27C400s. In fact, they don't support the 27C160, 322, 400 or 800s, which is why I needed to build this adapter. So the adapter itself, you can see it's got a nice cutout that simply drops in here, he said hopefully, like so, and this one gets locked down, that holds it in place, and then we drop the EEPROM into place, and on these we make sure we start from the bottom of the socket up, leaving the top blank and notch at the top. So let's lock that in place. Make sure we're on other and 0 on the select. Then open up your image, which hopefully should be on my desktop. You can see it says Diagrom in the middle. I'm going to undo check ID because it will register it obviously not as a 4096. VPP voltage should be 12.75 to 13 volts, so that's fine. VDD write voltage should be 6.5, which is fine, and pulse delay 100 US is fine. With everything done, hopefully we can just go to program now. And there we are, we're all done. I can now take this out and let's go check what happens on the 2000. So with the diagnostic ROM in place, let's find out what happens. Helps if you remember to plug the power back in. Okay, again, let's go through the tests one by one. So with most of these tests passing, except for some of the graphics ones, the only thing I've got left to do at the moment is check and replace Denise with an ECS Denise, assuming this works. So that's next. Well, after all that, it appears that the poor Denise is past her prime, unfortunately, which is a shame, but I'm glad my ECS Denise works. So here are the drives. Let's see what we can do about them. So with this board done, I've still got one here. However, to remove it, I need to remove this off of the drive, which I'm kind of not willing to do. So what I'm going to do is cut the legs, and I'll solder one of these on this way, and hopefully that will do it. So with both drives now done, let's drop them back into the 2000 and find out if there's any life in these. Floppies are back in. Are these going to work? I genuinely have no idea. Let's find out. Well, for the first time ever I can hear a drive tick. Okay, let's see what happens. Drives detected. Oh well. I think there's the answer to that. Ah. So has our workbench disk failed? Okay, there are some, I don't know if the camera will pick that up. There are some very light lines on the disk top and bottom. Not sure. Not sure if the floppy is dead or not. Okay, apologies for not recording all of that. Just out of interest, I used one of these caddies. I 3D printed this, I got it off Thingiverse. It allows you to drop a disc in, like so. You would have seen it being used earlier, but then you open the, let me try and open. Oh, okay, I've got a disc that's jammed. That locks in, this goes in, and you can literally just turn the disc, clean it. This one's absolutely filthy. And yeah, it booted into Workbench. Now DF1 is still showing bad, but DF1 was now spinning up and registering, which is quite something. That's unbelievable. Okay, so we've got a working drive back to where we were. Unexpected. Unexpected. Right, let me power down, let's drop in all the cards that I had in originally and see what happens. So I'm trying a little experiment. This is the drive that wasn't working. I've changed the jumper so that it matches the drive that was working. I'm going to try it in this position and see if it will boot. This will confirm 100% that it's the drive and not one of the settings. So it's definitely the drive. It's not registering the disk, even though it is going through an initial startup. It's not seeing the disk at all. And just to confirm, see the LED coming on. I don't know if you can hear the drive clicking, but nothing's spinning. It's also sounding groundy. Not good. Okay, this is definitely a dead drive. So let's pop it out. And what I think I'm going to do is swap the good drive over to the other jumper, and I'll put it in with the GoTek. So the theory is the GoTek would be the boot drive for most of the time. So let me swap this over now. So I've now got the GoTek in and I've got the known working floppy. I had to check and make sure there wasn't a jumper for setting the device number. So let's power up. This is set for Workbench 1.3. So let's run it and see what happens. Okay, we're not showing DF1 bad. So I currently have, obviously, the GoTek running Workbench 1.3.
I'm going to try dropping in the known working workbench 1.3.2 into the floppy. Drives registered it, and we have a new icon. Excellent. So DF0, DF1. Well, here we are at the end of the video. I know there were a couple of other things that I wanted to do. However, I've decided that I'm just going to do them as an update. I think 3 parts to this has been more than enough at the moment. I just want to chill and relax, do something else for a while. I've got loads more systems to look at. So let's see how we can get on. Show this running. This has been an amazing dream to get a 2000. Ah! Yeah, almost. I never said I could play and talk. It doesn't work very well, and a lot of the time I just can't play, so. And then I'm in trouble. Oh, big trouble. Especially seeing as I did not get the power up. Oh well, survived that section anyway. Could have done with the power up, especially coming into here. Yeah, I need that front shield. Not to worry. Oh, that wasn't great, but hey. Oh, been a long time. I do like R-Type, you've seen that in a few. This is my go-to. Problem when you get speed. Well, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and please give a big thumbs up because it helps drive the whole YouTube machine. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next Retro Crazy.